The reason they like reading my stuff is that I've always got real life examples to prove what I'm saying.
There's a lot of good people that listen to this podcast.
Other than God and my family, deer hunting would be next in line on my list of priorities.
From the bottom of our hearts, it's just fantastic and awesome to have the support that you guys are getting.
People ask me about expandable broadheads and love swings.
Chasing Giants with Don Higgins and Terry Peer. Brought to you by Osseo Camo, nature's most lethal camouflage. Follow along as Don and Terry discuss the techniques, strategies, and dedication needed to harvest one of God's most amazing creations, world-class whitetails.
Well, welcome to the Chasing Giants podcast, episode 185. I believe, Don, episode is going to air on September 3rd. A day after opening day of archery season in Kentucky, and we're recording a little bit earlier in the week, and we're going to explain that a little bit later in the podcast about why we're doing that. But I'm really excited about today's show because we got a lot of deer talk to talk about. The first thing is fall plots. You released a video on the Real World site about planting, whether you have rain in the forecast or not. And we're going to talk about that when it comes time for a listener submitted question. We're going to talk about buck shifting already. We've had a couple bucks shed on both of our farms, but we've also seen some new bucks show up that I think we want to talk about. And I think that's going to be really important as guys get ready for trail camera movement from summer bachelor groups to more fall range. But before we go on to that, you've had a really emotional week with highs and lows. And I know it's tough to kind of talk about, but we all believe in the power of prayer and bringing this hunting community together. So I'm going to let you kind of explain the highs and lows of the last week with your family.
Yeah, it's hopefully I can get through this without getting too emotional. But so a week ago we got word, got confirmation that our oldest daughter has breast cancer, and it had already spread to her lymph nodes. She started getting a lump in her armpit, and she went to the doctor. They were real concerned and immediately did a biopsy, and it proved to be cancerous. The bad thing is that she went to the doctor in January for this. And in January, the doctors blew her off, told her it was nothing, told her to come back in 2 years for a next exam. Well, that just gave the cancer about 7 or 8 months to grow. So it's been confirmed. Took her to an oncologist appointment, and I'm going to be with her every step of the way. I posted on my social media that she's my number one priority right now. So I'm sure I'm going to get to deer hunt, but if she's got a doctor's appointment, I want to be there either to take her or to watch the boys or whatever. And I don't want anybody to think that her husband is not there for her, because she's absolutely got a top-notch husband. I couldn't have handpicked a better husband for her, but he's limited to vacation days that he can take from his job, and we're trying to save them for emergency type situations. So we have no idea what's coming down the road. So I'm kind of trying to fill in the best I can there, and as well as Robin. I'm sure she's going to be helping with the boys and whatever's needed too. But so after she was diagnosed, the biopsy comes back cancerous. First day we go see the oncologist, he wants to do a PET scan immediately to see if the cancer has spread, where else it might be. He set up a PET scan for the very next morning, and then the insurance company denies it. So basically, I'm not sure if it's going to be me or them. I've offered to pay, but being young and proud, I don't know if they're going to let me pay for it. But we basically told the doctor that forget the insurance company for now. We'll deal with them people later. We need to get her a PET scan. And so tomorrow morning, I'm taking her to Indy for a PET scan and another doctor's appointment too while she's there with another specialist. But I posted this on my social media, and we definitely appreciate any prayers that could be offered. And especially, I know by the time this podcast comes out, it's going to be too late because the PET scan's tomorrow. But I've been asking people to pray that PET scan shows no cancer, that God performed a miracle. And when they do the PET scan, there's no cancer anywhere. By the time this podcast comes out, though, the PET scan will be over, and so we'll see what's going to happen. The oncologist that we met with, we're getting a second opinion from another oncologist too, but this one, I was really impressed with the guy. He was definitely not one to take a lackadaisical approach. He wants to be very aggressive with it. He's suggesting both chemo and radiation, as well as some estrogen drugs. I guess, I don't know if it's high estrogen causes the incidence of breast cancer, but some estrogen blockers or something. So there's going to be three basically modes of treatment, which will be chemo, radiation, and the drugs. And right now we got to wait on this PET scan to see where else that the cancer might be. I can tell you, in the last week, I've learned more about breast cancer and doing my own research than I ever dreamed I would know. And you just don't see this coming, and it just knocks you off your feet when it happens. And it's given me a whole new appreciation for the folks that we deal with Lester's feet, and what those parents go through. But I want to say something that some of the older listeners are going to know exactly what I'm talking about. Your kids are your kids. I don't care if they're 1 year old, 5 years old, 15 years old, or 35 years old. Your kids are your kids, and you don't stop loving them or start loving them less when they reach 18 or when they reach 21. If anything, you love them more the older you get, and the more you appreciate how precious life is. I think you love your kids even more. And to be honest, I probably couldn't have talked about this for about the first 5 days or so without breaking down, but we're going to get through it. I have no idea what the road ahead holds, but a couple of evenings ago, I mentioned before on the podcast that I've been reading the New Testament this summer, and it just so happens that a couple of nights ago I was reading, and I came to a chapter in Hebrews, and it was talking about faith, and it was because of faith. And it just, like every paragraph almost in that whole chapter started with, because of his faith, Noah built the ark. And then it just went through, because of her faith, Sarah bore a child at, 99 years old. And it was just one thing after another throughout the Bible, and it was all because of faith. And when I got done reading that, and I'd been reading like 2 to 5 chapters a night, but that chapter hit me so hard that I only read that one chapter that evening and prayed about it, and especially Andrea's situation. And that was 2 evenings ago, and I've had a peace come over me in the last couple of days that was not there. Now I still think about it every waking moment. This situation's on my mind, but I've got a peace about it now that I didn't have the first few days, and I know where that peace comes from. And I just, I'm prayerful that the PET scan is going to come back and show no cancer. But whatever happens, we're in it together, and we're going to get through it. And I got to say, Terry, I've never, I've shot some big deer, and when I did, hundreds of people congratulate me and send me texts and stuff. But I don't think I've ever seen the outpouring of support that I've seen this time. And on my social media, I think the post I made to kind of announce this, after I took Andrea to her doctor's appointment, we went and we stopped and had lunch, and she wanted to get a picture of me and her together because she's going to document her entire journey. And that was kind of the first step. But I posted that photo and just shared the news with folks. And I think it had over 1,300 likes or reactions, over 600 comments, and I got literally dozens and dozens and dozens of text, phone calls, emails, people reaching out. And I just want to thank everybody that took the time to do that. If you folks would all continue to pray, it would be greatly appreciated, but don't think that it's gone unnoticed. I wish I had the time to call up each and every person individually and thank them, for their prayers and support. But you don't know how much that means till you're in that situation. And again, the people we deal with Lester's Feet, I've got a whole new appreciation for them people that I didn't have before.
Well, it's obviously it's a heavy topic, and there's a couple reasons that we're bringing it up at the start of the show before we get into the deer hunting stuff. And that's number one, obviously anybody that's part of this community and listens to us with our idiot comments and rants, we consider you all family. So your continued prayers for Andrea and Corey and the boys and Don and Robin is so appreciated. The second thing is, we last Sunday we did the first Chasing Giants prayer time on the new channel, and Corey gave us permission to talk about it on there. Like Don said, your all's outpouring, even though Don might not get able to respond to every single one of them, when you guys outpour that support to these posts, you talk about a charge of energy or just a feeling of support around Andrea and the family right now. Even they might glance and see a comment. So it doesn't go unnoticed when you reach out. And I think that's a lesson for us all when somebody's struggling. It's one thing to say, oh, you're in my prayers. Are you really praying? That's the first question. I can say, oh, we'll keep you in our prayers. Are you really earnestly praying? And then the second thing is those comments just go a long way. We learned that lesson with Lester's Feet. We had, I sent some of the little postcards to the Amish schools and had the little Amish kids draw little pictures and stuff. So when we're dealing with a family, we mail those to the kids in the family, and they've come back and said just what a blessing to know that some stranger somewhere is praying for him. So we appreciate those comments. And the second thing that we wanted to talk about is, Don, I got a little aggravated with Don here recently because he goes on these podcasts and says, one day I'm just walking away. I've just had enough. I said, Don, quit saying that. It's when we want everybody to know that over this next journey with Andrea, he's made it very clear that his family is number one, and they don't know the road ahead. And if it becomes a week where we have Joe Miles on the podcast or Wes Delks on the podcast or somebody else to take Don's place, know that that is not what's going on right now. We're actually getting ready to announce a new sponsor to the show that we've been working on for quite a while. And before we signed the contract on that, I called him this week and explained what's going on and said, look, there might be a chance we can't, get the footage that, we were originally talking about to showcase your product. And we have those conversations with everybody to be completely transparent. But as a Christian brother, knowing what you have running around your farm right now, that you're ready to just bypass that if that's what it takes to take care of your family, that's the most encouraging thing you can do for every listener on here that thinks that, deer hunting has got to be the most important thing. And I commend you for that, because you've already said, I'm going to hunt, but if I don't get to hunt because of this, I'm okay with it.
Yeah. And yeah, I was pretty disgusted a couple times recently at some of the crap. I mean, I can handle things when it's there might be a little bit of truth behind it. You know, if somebody calls me an idiot because of my stand on broadheads, okay, well, I'm the one that threw that out there. But when somebody says something that just is absolutely not even true, I have a tendency to fly off the handle. But, you know, this has really kind of refocused my priorities. And I wouldn't care if I got on well, for one thing, I haven't been on social media near like I was previously. I just haven't had time. But that is so unimportant right now. And I hope it stays that way. I don't care what anybody says. It's
So
you know, it
so
really doesn't
maybe this season will be kind of changed. Instead of like the Mel video, maybe there's a storyline that comes in with this, with Andrea documenting it, and whatever your season ends up being, all of us with the Chasing Giants podcast, with Real World, with our land consulting business, you know, Wes and I might be covering a lot of your visits to go out and look at properties and let you draw the plan up so you can be at home. We don't know where all this is going to be, but we're all going to rally around you together and rally around Andrea and Corey, and whatever it ends up, it's going to end up. But I think this season is about focus, and not about focus on deer hunting, but focus on what we need to do as men, being fathers, husbands, and Christians, as we're chasing these dreams. It's almost kind of like what the whole theory of the new YouTube channel was created about, but you know, it's just a situation that's there. So please keep Andrea, Corey, the boys, Don, Robin, everybody in your prayers. But we can't go to the next segment without you also sharing the other side of the scope, and that's the good news that you got this week.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting that it was last Friday we got the news that basically Andrea's biopsy came back and, you know, showed she does indeed have cancer. That was on Friday. And then on Saturday, my other daughter, Alicia, and her husband, Clint Long, had a baby boy. So we got a new grandchild. And boy, you talk about a guy feeling every emotion in a short period of time. I mean, I went from sad to mad to just elated that this grandbaby is healthy, and the delivery was easy. And it just, you know, as I was holding that little guy, I was reminded that, you know, Andrea was once that size, and, you know, I got to hold her at birth. Yeah. So even though she's quite a bit older now, she's still my little girl.
You know, and we always wonder sometimes these weird things of how God works. I look at your life and how your business ventures and everything, and, you know, maybe this all happened at the point in time in your life where, you know, the businesses are kind of running with the staffs that you have, the house is built, there's not really anything there, and you're in a position both with time and financially where you can say, I'm there for you every minute, every day, every doctor's appointment, where probably 5-6 years ago, you would have done it anyway, but you wouldn't have had it like it is. So I think God kind of has a bigger picture we don't understand sometimes. So even though she is, you know, got this condition, she's in a position where she's got unlimited support from you and Robin, and I think that means the world to her. So keep them in your prayers. We're going to be right back and talk about, we're still got these speaking engagements coming in the next couple weeks, and we're going to talk about bucks shifting as soon as we get back from a word from Osseo Gear.
Osseo Gear has perfected one of the most innovative camo patterns on the market. The unique camo pattern designed to mimic the feather patterns of one of North America's greatest predators, the great horned owl. Combined with intuitive features, superior comfort, and ultra high quality fabrics give bow hunters the ultimate advantage. Osseo has outfitted over 10,000 bow hunters across the country with over 1,000 5-star reviews. Visit asiogear.com to check it out for yourself. Use code CHASINGGIANTS for 15% off.
All right, Don. Well, I'm going to share my screen just so you don't have to try to find phone numbers and get you to plug your speaking engagement. You're going to still do this as far as we know, unless something drastic happens, but I believe it's September 15th.
Yeah, it's only a couple weeks away. So my home church, Solid Rock Chapel in Sullivan, Illinois, is hosting a men's retreat. It's at a campground on Lake Shelbyville, the Whitley Creek Recreation Area south of Sullivan, Illinois. You can find it on just about any map. Do a Google search or whatever for Whitley Creek Recreation Area, and we're going to be right at the entrance to that. You can't miss it. We've already got word that I just had another person today send me an email. They're coming from northeast Ohio or northwest Ohio. People from Pennsylvania coming. I've heard people from Alabama are coming, and I don't know who all. But anyway, that event is a ribeye meal that evening, and then after the meal, I'll be the guest speaker there. If you have any interest at all, you can call Curtis. His number is 217-254-1409, or Mike, and Mike's number is 217-620-8806. And you're more than welcome to camp. There's I think there's going to be camping right there where we're holding the event, but there's also several other campgrounds in the area on Lake Shelbyville. Lake Shelbyville is a huge lake. It's an 11,000 acre lake. Some fantastic fishing on that lake. You guys can come out and make a weekend out of it. The event's on Friday evening, so Saturday morning there's also going to be a breakfast. So the cost of this is $30 for the ribeye meal, but that also includes breakfast the next morning. So you guys could camp out that night, have a good breakfast the next morning, then go fishing for the day or whatever you might want to do. But those phone numbers, those guys can give you more details. Please reach out to them and not me, because they're really the guys doing all the work. I'm the guy that's got the easy part. I'm just talking. So I promise you, there's going to be things. I'm going to talk about things that I've never shared before, even with close friends. And there's going to be some new things I've never done before either at this event. So hope to see you there. Oh, and one more thing. I'm going to give away my new Mathews bow from last year. So, Mathews sends me a bow before they're released. Last year, I got the Phase 4 to hunt with. And that Phase 4 bow, I'm going to sign it and give it away to somebody that's in the audience. You have to be present to win. But I'm going to give that bow away at this event. So hope to see you there. Like I said, there's plenty of facilities for you to camp, or there's motels in the area too, that if you could stay in a motel if you want. But hope to have a good crowd there. It's only 3 days after Terry's speaking event. I think his is on September 12th. And if you really wanted to make a week out of it, you could go see Terry in northern Indiana, and then you could slip on over to Illinois and see me.
Yeah, for everybody coming from Ohio and Pennsylvania, it's on the way. There's a lot of good eating between Napanee, Indiana, and Shelbyville, Illinois.
Yep.
So the tag out technique 5th annual Hunters Bash is September 12th. You need to RSVP as soon as possible. I got word from Derek that they might have the biggest crowd they've ever had, and I know that is not because of who the speaker is, but it's just the event is continuing to grow and grow and grow. They do this for charity. And what's cool about it is all of the local people there that support it, a lot of the money that we're going to raise is helping families in need there and locally, which Lester's Feet's obviously going to help support that. So a lot of auction items, raffle items, and really good food and fellowship. And we're both talking about some kind of sensitive things that I don't think either one of us has shared about. I kind of told you a couple of the things I'm going to talk about. Some of them are kind of embarrassing and some of them are kind of funny, but people are going to get to know a little bit different side of us if they're at these events, aren't they?
No doubt about it. A lot of people that knew me when I was younger can't believe the person I turned into. And I'm going to share some things about my younger days, but some things that I'm going to humble myself, put it that way. I'm going to really humble myself with some of the stories I'm going to tell.
Yeah, I got a couple stories that involve my parents that they don't even know. I've never actually even told my parents about these things. So hope it's not videoed. I probably need to tell them in person for a couple of them. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, reach out on the tag out technique. Make sure you RSVP calling 574-209-2065. Now, Don, we both have gotten a couple pictures of smaller bucks that have shed, but we've both seen something a little odd. At least it's odd in my case, where a buck that I know and have a history with only got one picture of him all summer in the middle of the night. And then the last few days, I've gotten pictures of him at night. He's just miraculously shown up again. Have you seen any bucks show up on your place?
Yeah, I have. And basically just in the last 4 or 5 days. And you know what's crazy, Terry, is I think I mentioned this on the last podcast, is the impact that the weather has had on these deer. And we had that really hot spell. I think it was right after we recorded last podcast.
Yep.
These may come out every Sunday, but our recording schedule is not every 7 days. And but anyway, it got real hot right after we recorded last time. And I've got a number of cell cams out, so I was getting about over 1,000 pictures a day on all my cell cams combined. And when it got hot out, that crashed to less than 100. I mean, there was days I was getting 60, 70 pictures, which is less than 10% of what I had been getting. And there was not even any nighttime movement, really. Well, like right now, it's cooled off. The last 2 days here have been really cool, and it's that movement's peaked again. So now I'm getting well over 1,000 pictures a day again, but we got some more hot weather coming. But the bucks I've already got some pictures on this farm of bucks that I had not gotten before, well, at least this year, this summer. So they're starting to move and move a little bit, and these bucks they're not in a bachelor group. When I'm seeing them, they're by themselves, and they still got velvet. They haven't shed velvet yet, but yet they're already kind of wandering away from them bachelor groups a little bit.
Yeah, it's really odd to me that and I wish we could understand them even better than we do, because in this case, this buck is either 6 or 7. He summered on me the last 3 years, but yet this year he wasn't here except for one time, and so I knew he was alive as soon as the weather dropped. And I don't know if it was just coincidence, but as soon as that weather dropped, I got pictures of him. So yeah, I think that in some cases there's, every buck has a personality, right? And I can sit here and I told you, I can sit here and overanalyze and think, well, he wasn't here because somebody else was feeding, on a neighboring property, and he just wasn't coming over eating on me, or that I was doing so much work so late close to the season this summer that was, why he wasn't there. There was tractors and stuff on the property more. Who knows? But it's amazing that, we've already seen a couple bucks shift, but we've both already seen in 2 different states bucks show up that we hadn't had pictures of. It's that time. So, walk us through right now. You usually use the 4th of July to deploy cameras. This coming holiday weekend that we're in the middle of right now is usually your shift mode, right?
Yeah, it is. That's when I shift those cameras from where, I had them on bachelor groups, feeding areas, a lot of field edges, soybean fields, alfalfa fields. And starting Labor Day weekend, I typically will start shifting those cameras to their fall locations. And once I get them there, I leave them there clear until, about the 1st of March when I pull them. But, I'm basically putting them in places where the bucks are going to be during the rut, travel corridors, pinch points within travel corridors, just rope scrapes is another one. Don't use the rope scrapes a whole lot in the summer, but I'll have cameras on multiple rope scrapes here real quick. So the bucks this year, they seem to be just a little bit ahead of schedule. And I typically, if I move those cameras on Labor Day weekend, I typically beat that shift. And I think I still will for the most part, but yet there's already a few bucks that have seemed to wander away from where they've summered.
Yeah, and the interesting thing that that I want to pick your brain a little bit about and kind of bounce my logic off of you, because I know there's a lot of people from Kentucky that listen to the podcast. You know, we've had this cool snap, maybe a buck showing up, maybe a target buck is in daylight. But I think we're supposed to go back really hot again this weekend. So in my case, where I'm leaning towards, unless something changes and I don't have daylight pictures of them and it turns back hot again, I'm probably not going to put the intrusion on that spot. I'll stay back at the, in glass. I'll still be there the same amount of hours, but I'm not going to push the envelope for the sake of hunting on opening weekend if those conditions just aren't a little bit better. And I've killed deer in 90-degree temps before opening weekend, but you get so few chances with the age structure that I'm trying to kill this year. And if that 7-year-old pops out, I'm obviously going to shoot him. But I think it's a little bit better that if we get the spike in temperature, for me to just stay back out, even if I have the right wind and glass, versus push the envelope, because the likelihood of him being there in daylight's pretty small.
Yeah, I always like to play it conservative. I know what's going to happen. There's going to be guys shoot some giants in Kentucky opening weekend.
Sure.
People are going to say, look here, if this guy would have followed your advice, he would have not got this buck. But we're talking about playing the odds. And if you go in unfavorable conditions, all you're doing most of the time, and I'm talking the vast majority of the time, not just like 10%, I'm talking like 98% of the time, you're just ruining your chances for later. And
sure,
you need to, especially on them first hunts, you need to strike at the right time, not tip off the bucks that, hey, there's now human intrusion on this property, because they're going to smell where you walked in. I'd be cautious. I'm just a very conservative hunter when it comes to that.
Now, if I had intel that he was there when it was hot and he's daylighted all the time, that's not the situation I'm in, and I would adjust if I had that data point. But as of right now, I'm 3 days in with this buck showing up, and he's there at 4 a.m. in the morning. That does me no good to blow and pressure does that are around in that field. So we're going to play it by ear, because there's something that's also relative to food plotting, and that is we got 2 hurricanes blowing through a big portion of the eastern part of the country. Another one I think is offshore coming the other direction. We could have weather change in a matter of hours that the weather people don't even realize is coming, depending on what pressure and winds blow in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, it's so critical. The human intrusion factor cannot be overstated. You're going to get lucky once in a while. And there's going to be some hunters this weekend that get lucky, but we're talking about stacking the odds in your favor. And to do that, you need to be conservative. But when the time is right, absolutely get in there and give it your best shot. But don't ruin things before that perfect opportunity comes along.
Yeah. And I got a real good buddy of mine that's got a good one showing up in daylight. So if I don't have it, I'll either be glassing or I'll be filming him. So we'll be watching deer one way or another this weekend. So hopefully that temp stays down, we have the right wind, and we'll get on something. But best of luck to everybody. Well, I guess a couple people's probably already hunted, so we might even have some listeners that's tagged out by now, but by the time this comes out. But the season is here finally. So we're going to talk again. We got a really good listener submitted question about fall food plots. We posted a video today on Thursday about with being dry, when to plant. We're going to save that for the listener submitted question. But right now, let's listen to the folks from BioFarm for a BioFarm segment, and then we'll come back with the listener submitted questions for the week. Well, welcome everyone to the BioFarm segment. I have Wayne Keller on the line today. And Wayne, you don't really have a specific property per se that we normally do, but you just wanted to provide some updates about what's going on at BioFarm and what's going on in the real estate industry.
Yeah, I tell you what, our inventory is a little low right now because man, everything's been selling so well. We had a couple of real good auctions last night, and property brought big money. We had sold a 74-acre little farm here in Randolph County with tillable, a little bit of wooded on it, and a home, and that thing brought $11,450 per acre here in Randolph County. Unbelievable prices.
Right.
And spent part of the week over on that 730 acres we've got over in Franklin County. Man, has he got that set up for deer. Don has been managing it, I guess, Don Higgins, for the past 16 or 17 years. And I've seen some of the trail cam photos have come off of there recently, and it's like, wow.
Right.
That is a dang nice property for waterfowl or for deer. And let's see, we've got a couple other nice ones will be coming up here shortly on the internet. I can't really speak too much about them now, but we've got some larger one and a couple smaller ones coming up. So there's some choices out there for everybody for just about any budget.
Yeah, I find it interesting, Wayne, that, most of the time on here, we really kind of target properties for buyers, but, we have a lot of listeners that might also want to sell. And now is a great time. You said, these properties are moving, the interest rates, even though they've gone up a little bit, it's still a great time to work with an agency like you guys that can put the right people in front of it to get good money out of property.
Yeah, I tell you, when these interest rates went up, I thought that we were going to see a big slowdown and a slowdown in the prices, but that's not been the case at all. They're still selling very, very well, and they're bringing some incredible prices. So if you've got properties to sell, it's a good time to move them. And we've been finding out that auction's a good way to go because, we'll look at comparables and they might say, well, this property's worth $4,500 an acre, but you put it up there at auction, there's somebody out there that thinks it's worth more, or a couple of them, and it'll bring more than we would have priced it at.
Sure.
Using comparable.
Well, but yeah, you got a lot going. You got a new agent that just started with you. I think we're going to try to get him on the show here in the next week or so to introduce him. I don't know. It's you stay busy, buddy.
Yeah. Hey, and that new agent, a lot of people out there, especially in the farm and their hunting community, might know of him. He's worked with 4-H at state level for many, many years, and he's been in charge of a lot of the programs for youth and hunting and stuff like that. And his name's Kurt Sinclair. And like I said, a lot of people out there might recognize him.
Yeah, we'll have to have him on the show sometime here soon.
Okay, we'll arrange that.
Yeah, if you're interested in learning more, visit buyfarm.com, or Wayne, why don't you leave your contact information for everybody just in case?
Well, my phone number is 800-357-4020. I had an old farmer one day tell me, and never forget that number. He said 800's toll free, 357's a gun, and 4020 is a John Deere tractor. He said he can never forget that one.
Okay. Sounds good. We appreciate you being on the show and the support of the podcast, buddy. Take care.
Okay, this first one comes from Zoe Jones from Springfield, Illinois. It says, "Hey Don, first off, thank you for the info on clover plots and maintenance as the season has progressed this year. Any chance we can come full circle on when the last mowing of the season should be? 30 to 45 days prior to frost in that region, or is there a different scale you go by? Thanks for all the great food plotting tips and trick you both offer up." Well, Zoe, my philosophy is I want to really cut down on human intrusion on my property at September 1st. So I try to do a mowing in early September of my clover, and that's it. Then I get out, and because we got a season opener of October 1st, I want to, at least 3 weeks before season that I'm not even, around my plots or anything, because like we talked about earlier, we've got these new bucks moving in, and anything that I've done this summer did not affect those bucks whatsoever. But as they start showing up, then I can have a real impact with my activities on the property. So, I try to get them mowing in typically about that Labor Day weekend or the week right after. And once that's done, I'm done for the fall. I get out and stay out.
Yeah. It's also, you're stimulating that fresh growth as those bucks are coming in. So from an attraction power, like with a clover blend like we offer, those different varieties have different tissue analysis at different times of the year. So having that fresh growth, those 3 weeks before the season does offer a little bit more attraction, and then you shouldn't have to deal with it anymore the rest of the year. The speed that grows kind of slows down a little bit, even though, so I think right now would be the last time I would go in.
Yep. All right. The next one is from Zach Zimmerman from Kenton, Ohio. It has a two-part question, two completely unrelated questions. First says, here in Ohio, I live in one of the 3 CWD surveillance counties, which basically means we have had a handful of positive cases, like less than 10, with thousands and thousands having been tested. So our very smart DNR, sarcasm, decided to hire sharpshooters in certain areas to wipe out the herd to stop the spread, and banned all baiting in these 3 counties due to the fact that of congregating deer, thus stopping the spread through nose-to-nose contact. But rope scrapes and licking branches, don't you think that a rope that every deer walks past rubbing its face on would do more transferring than a mineral site? I probably should shut up now. We don't want to, or we won't be allowed to have those either. Your thoughts? Second question. How sensitive are you about the wind direction when pulling cards on your cameras? It's something that I thought about a lot, but haven't really taken it that serious, especially during the summer months. But sometimes closer to season, I'll wait for a safe wind to pull a card or wait till I hunt the area. Well, Zach, first on the CWD, I did not realize Ohio had a 3-county region that you can't bait anymore. I'm guessing these liberal biologists who think that the CWD is going to be the end of whitetails are probably going to slowly shut down all supplemental feeding and baiting across the entire country. 20 years from now, I think it'll be gone about everywhere. I think it's sad personally. Yeah, I don't know what we can do about it. I'm going to give you something to think about. A lot of the data that these agencies get that are shutting this baiting and supplemental feeding down, a lot of that data comes from the hunters. So, if you're out hunting and you see a deer that you suspect is sick, and that if he is sick and you call your DNR is going to come out, and then they're going to bring sharpshooters to your hunting area, and they're going to try everything they possibly can to wipe out the deer in your neighborhood. Now, I'm not going to suggest that you do or don't call the DNR, but I know exactly what I'm going to do. And I think you can all imagine.
I'm not going to post it to social media, that's for sure.
Right. The last thing I want is these out of control government agencies showing up and with sharpshooters wiping out my deer herd. I'll just leave it at that. You guys can take it from there. Do what you want, but know there's consequences for your actions if you call the state.
Yeah, and the kind of before we get to the second question, the thing that you got to be sensitive about is a lot of times when you believe that a deer's sick, it could be either EHD or CWD. And, all of us get freaked out every September, especially in dry months. I know a couple of our friends have already posted that they had some, situations where they found dead deer of EHD. That could be interpreted a lot of different ways. So I encourage hunters to use social media for good, share what you want, But when it comes to publicizing sick deer and how the DNR is reacting and looking at it, you need to make the choice that's best for you. I think, is that the politically right way to say it? If you want to continue hunting around that area, make the decision that's best for you.
And he makes a great point also about rope scrapes and licking branches, and it doesn't have to be a rope scrape you put out.
Any scrape.
Deer have licking branches. A lot of my best pictures come from a licking branch on my farm, and I'm telling you, just like he mentioned here, every buck that comes along is rubbing his face on that licking branch, and that has got to do more than a pile of mineral or a pile of feed. I mean, it's concentrated on that one little branch instead of in a bigger area. That's a great point. I've used that argument myself in the past that you're not going to stop deer from making scrapes. All of them peeing in the same scrape, coming along, sticking their nose in that pile of pee from every deer in the woods. This is just a feel-good reaction by a government agency that does nothing. It's like telling you got to have a COVID shot.
That's probably pushed by a lobbyist somewhere with a special interest group that doesn't want a deer herd there. So that'll really get them all fired up for this week. So how about the second question about trail cameras? Do you only check trail cameras with the right wind?
Well, not necessarily, but I become a whole lot more cautious around hunting season. So if I've got a stand or a camera along a route that I'm going to take to access a stand, I'll just wait and I'll check it then. I do a lot of my camera checks in midday when the deer are a whole lot less active. I like to do it on really windy days. The wind is blowing vegetation and making a lot of noise that lets you get in. I am careful about when I'm on the edge of a bedding area. I don't want my scent blowing into that bedding area, but there's just a whole lot of different things you can do.
A lot of your trail camera locations can be checked from the QuietKat bike or from the four-wheeler where you don't even have to get off. So it's, just like a piece of farm equipment or even the tractor to driving by. I think Wes Delks, does a really good job explaining when he's talking about building a camera location, just like a tree stand location, and having certain, features of the terrain to funnel deer, but then having access to it so you're not putting intrusion. I think about that one property that we had over a couple counties from your house a couple years ago where the trail camera was on one side of this real big ditch that was narrow, but the rope scrape was on the other side of the ditch. So we were never even close to where the deer were walking to leave ground scent because of it. And then I also think about checking them with you, and you'll pull into the property and roll the windows down and have the radio blaring as absolute loud as it'll go to make sure that those deer know that you're in there versus, trying to be sneaky, slippery and then step on one and spook them.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, if they know your exact location, especially a mature buck, if he knows your exact location, that's really not putting too much pressure on him, because even if you get close to him, most of the time he's going to lay tight. He'll just put his chin to the ground, and you almost got to step on him to see him, and they'll let you pass right by. It's when they don't hear you coming, and all of a sudden, boom, there you are 20 yards from them. That's where the pressure's at. But if they can hear you coming from 100 yards or more away, then they'll just either lay tight or they'll tuck tail and they'll put their head down. They'll trot away, to get away from you. And when they avoid you successfully, they will come back and bed. And that just gives them confidence in their bed. The danger come along, they were able to escape that danger. It gives them confidence, and they'll bed there again.
But, I think about your trail camera locations that we look at on the masterclass tour, and there's absolutely some camera locations you would never check with the wrong wind. Like the camera location at the Smoky Blind, you would never, that's right in a funnel between a wooded bedded area and native grass area, where you would never even think about doing that with the wrong wind. But I think about the one down at the bridge. You could check that with any wind whatsoever and not cause a bit of problem. So I think you just got to use some common sense about where the location is, and you can probably get away with it more on some spots than you can on others.
Right. Yeah, those were a couple of pretty good examples you shared that were opposite ends of the spectrum. This one comes from Heath Jones from Freetown, Indiana. He says, Don and Terry, I was hoping to get fall plots in this last week of August. However, it looks like Mother Nature may have other plans. It's been dry here and there is no sign of rain in the next 2 weeks, according to what I'm currently seeing. I know you talk about not planting too early, but when does it become too late? I assume there are a lot of factors, but just looking for your opinion. Thanks. Well, Heath, the reason I picked your question, and I know Terry knows the reason I picked your question, because we have both answered this question countless times every single day for the last 2 weeks or so. Everybody wants to know, no rain in the forecast. What should I do? Should I plant? Should I wait? Well, think about this. In the springtime, when a farmer is going to plant his crops in the field, when it's time to plant, if the ground conditions allow it, he's out there planting. He's not looking at the forecast to do it. And you need to do the same thing. Cereal grains, you want to be about 45, 60 days max before the first expected frost in your area. When you're talking brassicas, you can go a little bit longer than that. You want to be 60 days plus before that first expected frost. And forget about the weather forecast, because I think we talked about a little bit already that you don't know what the weatherman is not right 10 days out. In fact, 10 days out, he's probably wrong more than he is right. And, these hurricanes that we got, down south, they could absolutely push up a rainstorm that nobody was expecting 10 days previous. So if it's time to plant, it's time to plant. Get your seed in the ground, and it can lay there for weeks without rain. And then when you get it, it can finally germinate. Now that's not ideal, but what good does it do you to wait for the rain or to wait for the forecast of the rain?
Well, everybody that's scratching their head right now, let's dive into this a little bit, because just a couple weeks ago we were saying wait and go around rain. So what we're saying is when it's go time, it's go time. Right now is go time. Mm-hmm. And these guys that are wanting to plant in early August up through the middle of August, that's too early. And we're saying, if somebody had a lot of rain in a forecast, say on August 20th, I'd say go ahead and plant. If it's going to rain, you're planting around the weather at that point. But I don't think you wait till September 20th to plant because of the rain, if that makes sense. So when Don says it's go time, right now is the perfect time, right around September 1st for the majority of our listening area of when you need to get those fall plots in. So 3 weeks ago, we were saying hold off, wait until you have the perfect weather. Right now, we're saying regardless, get it in there.
Right. That's perfect, Terry, because where I'm at, the ideal planting time is September 1st. And that's typically when I would wait to plant. I planned a lot of plots on Labor Day weekend. However, a week to 10 days before that, if I see a rain event coming, I will go ahead and plant to hit that rain event. But once you get to the September 1st date, get it in the ground. This one comes from Drew Peterson from Albion, Michigan. He says, hi, Don and Terry. You have often talked about how to attract and keep bucks on your property. In American Hunter magazine, September 2023, there was an article on this topic by their field editor. It begins with your frequent teaching that minimizing intrusion on the property is perhaps the number one positive factor, and next, food is important. Cover is important, but then they get into something that I'd like you to give your experience and opinions on. That is creating an illusion of more deer by using scents. That is scent-laced mock scrapes. You speak of this with Smokey's Lure, preorbital gland scent on rope scrapes often. The author says that the summer and early fall is not too soon to begin this sham to accentuate the herd. The author goes on to state that the most efficient manner to disperse scent is by a dripper, a smart dripper that activates during the heat of the day to drip scent and shuts off in the cool of the night to give deer the confidence that other deer are stopping by during daylight. What say you, and what experience do you and or Terry have with this technique, and do you recommend it? Thanks, Drew. Drew, I have no idea who you're talking about. So this, as far as the author of this article, so this is not a personal attack whatsoever. It's just my opinion on the technique that you've described here. I do have experience with those scent drippers. I have not had a good experience with those scent drippers. I think, like a lot of things in the hunting industry, like a lot of techniques that are promoted, I think it sounds great in theory, but in reality, it just it doesn't fly in the real world, pun intended. I think what you've described cannot be compared to the rope scrapes that I put out to take inventory of bucks. We've got another question coming up about a guy putting out a bunch of scrapes that it's probably the next one up, I would guess. But I think the idea that you're going to go out there with these deer scents and you're going to make the deer think that, hey, there's a whole lot more deer on the property that I haven't met yet. So I need to get up out of my bed before it gets dark, and maybe I can catch this new dude at the scrape and kick his butt or whatever I need to do.
The king buck.
I think
He's the king buck.
Well, every property's got a king buck, but I think the deer have it already figured out who the king buck is. We don't need to help them. And you know, again, I think it's human theories in that, makes people come up with some of these ideas. I just have never seen them play out. And I tell the story often of how I got into outdoor riding. When I was younger, I bought every single deer magazine that was printed. And there was a lot more of them back then than there is today. A lot of those periodical publications have went by the wayside just because people aren't reading like they used to because of the internet. But I bought everything I could read about deer hunting, and I would take those ideas that I would read about to the deer woods, and almost never did they work. It was just almost never. And finally I came to the conclusion that these guys are just selling unproven ideas and dreaming up things and throwing it out there. And that's when I become an outdoor writer. And if I write about something, I've actually done it, and it's actually worked. And I've tried a lot of things, ideas I've come up with that did not work. I'll be the first to tell you. But if they did not work, I'm sure not going to write an article about it or make a video about it. And I have no idea who this author is you're talking about. I don't get that magazine, but I just don't buy into that idea whatsoever. The other thing with my rope scrapes, those scrapes get scented one time. When I go in here about Labor Day, like we talked about earlier, and I'm moving my cameras, I'll move some 2 rope scrapes. I will scent that rope then. That will be the only time of the year I scent that rope. I'll use an entire bottle of Smokies on that rope, an entire 1 ounce bottle on that rope, and I'll have a bottle for every scrape. And that is the only time for the whole year. I get out at that point and I stay out. And that cuts way down on the human intrusion. The human intrusion factor, which this author did mention, is number one. It is hands down number one. The best thing you can do to any property is stay the heck off of it. And a lot of these ideas require you to put a lot more time on the property. That's counterproductive, in my opinion.
If bucks are hitting scrapes, it's that time of year, right? Right or wrong?
Yep.
So if the theory is I'm going to put scent on a rope scrape or a licking branch or something out there to attract a buck to come in there, how do you prove that you putting a scent on there got him there to begin with? Did he smell it from a mile away and say, oh, I'm going to over there to smell it? Or he was already going to that scrape at that time anyway. So, it's just another idea and people have to get buzz, and there's just no way to prove that you would ever entice bucks to come there. They're already coming there as their social bulletin boarders, checking in on Facebook. That's how they're communicating already and up and about. So I don't know. If you could do it, here's my other thing. to put you on the spot. If you could do it with zero human intrusion, are you hurting anything by doing it?
Possibly. It depends on the scent you're using. You could be
Yeah.
using a scent that basically has not been handled properly. It could spook the buck.
Yeah.
But the
That's-
idea that you,
Yeah.
the idea that you're going to go in there and all of a sudden you're going to make every deer on your property think that there's a whole other group of deer they've never met yet. It's just, it's ridiculous. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, I wanted to tee that up for you a little bit. It's and then half of the sense that people are using is 4-year-old stuff on the shelf at Walmart.
Uh-huh.
Everybody talks about, our relationship with Smokey, but the thing is, it's real deer scent. It's not processed and been sitting on a shelf forever. I mean, the number of deer that he cuts up with being a trapper and the relationships he has with the processing plants in there, I wouldn't want his job. He loves it, but I wouldn't want his job.
And the thing about Smokey's lures, they're a lure. They're not a urine. I mean,
Right.
he does sell urine as well, but most of his stuff is a gland scent,
Right.
tarsal gland or preorbital gland or whatever.
Yeah. All right. We won't get on too much of a rant. Here's the last one of the night.
Yeah, this is the one that I was just referring to. This comes from Carter Lang from Blue Mounds, Wisconsin. He says, "Hey, Don and Terry, big fan of the podcast. I recently put in 750 scrapes on my property. I had one person helping me, and it took us all day to get them in. We put them on the edges of our food plots and trails in the woods. My question is, do you think this is doing more harm than good? We stayed away from bedding areas. We got in and got out in one day to keep our intrusion down to a minimum. Thanks for everything you guys do. God bless." Well, I'll tell you, I gotta say, Carter, I had no idea if this was a joke or you was serious. And if you want a T-shirt, you're going to have to send me something to prove that you're serious. I'm not just going to send the T-shirt to. And the reason for it, every week I get one T-shirt back from somebody that basically used a fictitious name on their submission. Maybe not every week, but I've got 3 of them sitting on my desk right here in front of me that were returned by the post office. So I don't know if Carter is serious or if this is some fictional character that some clowns made up, but 750 scrapes. Now you can't tell me you can put 750 scrapes in the woods on your hunting property and the deer not know what's going on. I mean, you're leaving human scent everywhere. I just cannot imagine 2 guys spending an entire day putting out 750 scrapes. I mean, that's 375 scrapes each. Let me do the math here. I got a calculator right in front of me, Terry. So let's say they was out there 10 hours times 60 minutes equals they was out there 600 minutes. Each guy did 375 scrapes. So they did a scrape every 1.6 minutes. They did a scrape for 10 hours each. First of all, I have a hard time believing there's 750 scrapes 2 guys made in a 10-hour day. There's no way you could do that and make one every minute and a half. You're making a scrape for 10 hours, 2 of them.
Maybe it's just
Carter.
a typo. Maybe it's just a typo. But regardless,
I don't know.
Let's change the question a little bit, because it might be a typo or somebody might be playing a joke on you. It might be serious. We don't know. We don't want to act like we're poking fun of Carter for the question. We appreciate the question. When we're trying to establish scrapes, are we wanting fewer better scrapes, or are we wanting to? I guess my question is, sometimes more is too much. And if I have the choice of every deer coming to one scrape versus every deer going to a random scrape all over the property, I'm going to choose every deer coming to one good scrape in a good location where I might have a chance to hunt him.
Yeah, and that's why I think the rope scrapes are so good, Terry, because the deer on any property, they've got a bunch of scrapes of their own. And they really love that rope. And that rope, you can put just a couple of rope scrapes on your property, and the bucks seem to like to really work those ropes. And that rope is not something they find on all those other scrapes. And then when you put a deer scent, a glandular lure on that rope, well, it also makes it different than any other scrape on the property.
Right.
And I think that can increase the deer activity at that particular scrape. And the reason you would want to concentrate that activity is for two reasons. One is because you've got a stand right there by it. And two is because you're going to put a camera over it to inventory the bucks on the property. So
Right.
I think mock scrapes do have their place, but like anything, you can go overboard. And Carter, I apologize if I offended you, because if you're serious and legit, I think that you're wasting a lot of time and money for the scent that would be required for 750 scrapes, and you're putting a lot of human intrusion on your property, even if it all happened in one day. It's definitely not something I would promote or practice.
That time and effort and energy. Yeah, try to create your tree stand locations, your camera locations, and your scrape locations in one area that you can hunt, or a couple areas with different winds that you have better access for. You're not going to fool a deer saying, like you said on the last question, a new army of deer came in from out of state and set up shop here, and now we need to go fight.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, yeah, I'm really interested to see, Don, here over the next couple of days. We've got another couple of days of cooler weather. Are we going to continue to see some other bucks show up? Is it going to shut back down? Is we going to get some different weather coming in from the hurricane? It's going to be really interesting over the next week or so, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Not sure how much I'm going to get out. Like I said, I'm taking my daughter to the PET scan in Indianapolis tomorrow morning. Tomorrow evening when we get back, I'm going to camp out with the grandsons. Got a cool evening that I think Grandpa can stand it outdoors it's supposed to be in the 50s, so that won't be too bad. And then I'm going to go see the new grandson after the camping venture. I think I forgot to mention his name at the beginning. The new baby's name is Bowen James Long, and looking forward to going and seeing Bowen again as well. So,
did Clint tell you I was lobbying to name him Terry?
He didn't mention that, no.
Yeah, I recommended it. Clint said they already had it covered, but they appreciated my suggestion. But I'm just trying to help.
I'd probably better not say what I suggested they name him, but you can ask Clint the next time you see him what my suggestion was.
It wasn't Jacoby, was it?
No, it was not.
That's all right. We'll move on.
Yeah, I probably should not say.
That's all right. All right. Well, we appreciate the prayers for Don's family. It means a lot. We appreciate your patience as we kind of explain what's going on. And as we navigate this next, period of time here, be patient with us. I might have somebody on here covering for Don if he's helping with family. And, we got some big news. Like I said, we got a new sponsor that's coming on board that is going to play a pivotal role. We actually went out and was trying to decide how to do this. And then one of your former land consultant customers had actually purchased a company, an established company, and we tried the product and believe in it. I want to tell you something, it's the real deal. So we're going to be announcing that very soon. And it's going to kind of play a pivotal role originally in how you were going to manage the herd on your property. But as this pans out and the grandkids are spending more time with you, it might actually have a little bit of a twist to you this year if they're hunting with you more.
Well, I'm telling you, I'm still planning on taking those boys deer hunting this fall. And if Babe steps out in front of them, I am going to let them shoot Babe. So just so everybody knows, Babe is not going to be off limits to these guys. So
he's off limits if I'm there hunting, but he's not off limits if the grandkids are there.
To be honest, I don't know about that either, because I want him shot this year. It's time to shoot him, and got a lot of young bucks coming on, really good young bucks coming on.
That's
I'd like
what
to get
I'm
some of
really
these older ones out.
you know, we don't know how much content we're going to film, but you'll have a camera with you the entire time. The story of Babe is cool. The story of what you have cooking on your farm is exciting as far as what your management of your buck herd is going to produce. And we talked about that a couple weeks. It's not culling bucks, it's managing the buck herd just like the doe herd. And that story to unfold on the Whitetail Master Academy is going to be absolutely amazing to watch. And a lot of that is going to be shown through the season on as we hunt this year. So pretty good stuff. Thanks before we sign off. Thanks to Kyle Harmon. He saved me a trip to Illinois today. He went over and planted Deadly Dozen and Harvest Salad today on the property that I hunt there close to Don. So thanks to Kyle for hooking me up and changing batteries in a camera for me. So if he's listening, thanks for the help. We appreciate it.
What are you going to do this weekend, Terry?
Hopefully hunt. But if it's too hot, I'm not going to hunt.
Yeah.
Well, let me rephrase that. If this joker starts showing up before dark in the next couple days, I'll be sweating in a box blind like a sauna. But yeah, if it stays the way it is, I'll give it a little bit more time. And there's so much food on my property, nobody's going to be able to compete with food. And my guess is that everybody's going to hit the woods no matter the conditions on opening day. And I'm just going to let them filter into my place and then pick my right time to go in. That pressure that people have opening weekend is about as bad as gun season. You know, they think they have to hunt for the sake of hunting, and I'll be doing it too if the conditions are right. But if they're not, I'll let everybody push them to me a little bit.
Smart move. I hope to get a call or a text from you and picture of a giant.
All right, everybody. Well, we appreciate the support, appreciate the prayers. Go check out the Chasing Giants TV channel. Like I said, we're having what do you think of our every Sunday prayer time, Don? We took a little bit of a leap of faith with that one, and I tell you what, it wasn't the most comfortable thing, but the feedback we've gotten from it's been pretty positive.
I think it's a great idea. I don't watch much of YouTube of anybody, but I do plan on checking that out every week.
So Wes Delks is up this week, and he's already recorded it, and you are not going to want to miss what this young man has to say as a short little devotion before he offers a prayer. So you do not. Every single deer hunter needs to listen to this message from Wes Delks. I wish I was as strong as he is even now, much less when I was as young as he is. He still looks like he's 16, but if I was that strong when I was that young, my life would have been a whole lot easier by now.
He's the real deal. He is absolutely the real deal, and glad to know him. Glad to call him a friend.
Yep. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for your support. We appreciate it. We'll see you next week.
God bless everyone. Have a great week.
Chasing Giants has been brought to you by Osseo Camo, Via Farm Real Estate Company, 360 Hunting Blinds, Victory Chevrolet, Real World Wildlife Products, Matthews Archery, Novix Tree Stands, Gingerich Tree Farm, WildlifeFarming.com, Quiet Cat, and Vortex Optics. Thanks for listening, and tune in next week for another episode of Chasing Giants.